You think your money makes you untouchable? Get out of this cabin right now!
The camera opens inside a private jet cruising above the clouds. Everything looks peaceful, leather seats, golden light filtering through the oval windows, the quiet hum of engines. But the air carries tension that no one can quite name yet. In the center aisle stands a white female flight attendant, her uniform pressed sharp, her voice sharper. She leans forward, pointing directly at a calm black CEO sitting in first class. Her tone cuts through the silence like a blade. "Sir, I said this seat is reserved. You'll have to move to economy now." For a second, no one breathes. The passengers nearby freeze mid-conversation. The only sound is the faint rattle of turbulence and the slow, deliberate inhale from the man she's talking to. He looks up. No anger, no shock, just quiet disbelief wrapped in dignity. His voice comes out low, measured. "Are you sure you want to repeat that?" Her jaw tightens. "I don't care who you think you are. This is first class. Not," she hesitates, realizing the weight of her next words, "not where you belong." The cabin drops into total silence. Every eye turns toward them now. The co-pilot, standing near the cockpit, shifts uncomfortably, pretending to check a control panel. A woman in the back raises her phone, pretending to text, but she's already recording. The black CEO doesn't flinch. He simply exhales, looks down at his boarding pass, gold-trimmed, embossed with his name, and places it gently on the armrest. "Seat 1A, he says quietly. "That's mine." The flight attendant refuses to even glance at it. Her pride burns hotter than logic. "Sir, I said move." He meets her eyes. There's a silence that stretches long, deliberate, heavy. He's not the kind of man used to shouting. He's the kind of man used to commanding rooms with calm. But right now, that calm feels dangerous. In the background, the captain appears in the doorway, arms folded, watching, waiting to see how this plays out. "Ma'am," he finally says, his voice firm but uncertain, "maybe check the manifest before..." But she cuts him off, snapping, "I know what I'm doing!" The tension tightens like a rope. The black CEO stands now slowly. He doesn't raise his voice, doesn't even look at her. He adjusts his cufflink, straightens his jacket, and says one line that freezes her in place. "You have no idea who you're talking to." A passenger gasps quietly. The woman recording whispers, "Oh my God." The flight attendant folds her arms, trying to hold her ground. "You're making a scene," she says. He glances around the cabin, eyes steady. "No," he replies. "You did that the moment you opened your mouth." For the first time, she hesitates. The authority in his tone doesn't come from anger, it comes from ownership, from control. But before anyone can process it, the jet hits a slight bump of turbulence. Coffee spills, the moment cracks, the tension turns electric. Then her breaking point. She steps closer, finger trembling, voice rising. "Enough! Get out of this seat or I'll have security remove you myself." The black CEO doesn't move, doesn't blink. The silence between them feels suffocating. And in that silence, every person on that plane knows something irreversible has just begun. The camera zooms in on her trembling hand, his steady eyes, and the faint, vibrating hum of the engines underneath it all. Because sometimes, power doesn't shout. It waits. And right now, that power is sitting in seat 1A. The cabin feels heavier now, not just with air pressure, but with eyes every pair watching what happens next. You could hear the hum of the engines, the nervous clicks of seatbelts being fastened. People aren't moving, they're witnessing. The flight attendant stands rigid, her chin lifted high like she's defending some invisible rulebook. The black CEO doesn't look angry, he looks disappointed. The kind of disappointment that doesn't come from being insulted, but from realizing someone just ended their own career and doesn't even know it yet. She breaks the silence first. "I said move." He takes a slow step forward, not aggressive, but controlled, deliberate. "You're talking to me," he says softly, "like I don't deserve to be here, like I'm beneath you." "I'm talking to you," she snaps back, like a passenger who doesn't follow instructions. Her voice cracks on that last word. She knows it. Everyone does. The captain, still standing at the cockpit door, clears his throat. Lisa, he says quietly, maybe we should... She spins around, voice sharp. Captain, with all due respect, I'm handling this. But the captain's eyes tell another story. He's not supporting her, he's warning her. He's seen this type of arrogance before, and he knows exactly how it ends. The black CEO adjusts his sleeve, his tone still calm. You know, I could move, he says, but something tells me it wouldn't end there. Would it? The attendant folds her arms, scoffs. Don't play games. Rules are rules. He smiles faintly. Rules? He repeats. You know what's interesting about rules? They tell you where to stand, but they don't always tell you who's standing next to you. For the first time, she falters. There's a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. A tiny tremor runs through her jaw. The passenger recording in the back leans forward slightly, her phone capturing every second. Someone whispers, "Oh, this is going viral." The attendant takes another step closer, invading his space. "Sir, I'm giving you one last chance. We're all sewed. He doesn't move. He doesn't move. He doesn't move. And I'm giving you yours?" Her face reddens. She can't tell if it's rage or fear, but she feels her heart pounding like it's echoing through the walls of the cabin. The captain shifts uncomfortably. Passengers hold their breath. Then she makes the mistake. The fatal one. She reaches down, grabs the CEO's arm, not violently, but firm enough to send a message. "I said move." The reaction is instant. The entire cabin gasps. The captain takes a step forward, his voice sharp now. "Lisa, enough!" The CEO slowly looks down at her hand, gripping his sleeve, then back at her eyes. His tone drops to a whisper so quiet that it hits harder than any shout. "Take your hand off me." Every word lands like a hammer. Her fingers tremble. She hesitates, then lets go, stepping back slightly. But instead of apologizing, she doubles down. "Don't threaten me," she says, her voice cracking. "I'm calling security when we land." "Are you isn't?" He tilts his head, almost pitying her. "Security?" he says softly. "You might want to call someone higher than that." The tension is unbearable now. You can feel the imbalance of power shifting, molecule by molecule. The passengers can sense it too, something unseen, something turning. The captain exhales, rubbing his temples. He doesn't know it yet, but in a few minutes, his entire flight crew will be at the center of a global scandal. The CEO sits back down, calm again, his voice steady, his posture unshaken. "You've already said too much," he murmurs. The flight attendant swallows hard, gripping the seat for balance. For the first time, she realizes she may have just crossed a line that no apology can fix. And as the engines roar beneath them, the camera lingers on his reflection in the window, serene, unbothered, untouchable. Because the storm hasn't even started yet. It's still building, and when it breaks, it won't be turbulence shaking this plane. It'll be justice. The hum of the jet feels louder now. It's like the air itself is warning everyone to stay quiet. No one dares to speak. Even the light feels harsher, bright, clinical, cutting across the aisle like a spotlight on guilt. The black CEO sits motionless, hands folded, eyes fixed ahead. He's not looking at her anymore. He's beyond her. But that calm, it only fuels her anger. The flight attendant, red-faced and trembling, mistakes silence for weakness. She leans in closer, voice rising, desperate to regain control of a situation that's already slipped away from her. "Don't ignore me!" she snaps, her words sharp enough to pierce through the low hum of the engines. He doesn't flinch, doesn't even blink. That stillness, the kind that comes from power, from restraint, pushes her over the edge. You can see it in her eyes. Her pride won't let her back down, not in front of all these people, not in front of her captain. The captain tries one last time. "Lisa, stop. That's enough." But it's too late. She steps closer, pointing a finger right in his face. "You people think you can just buy your way into everything, not on my flight!" The words hang in the air, venomous, echoing like a gunshot. Every head in the cabin turns. Someone gasps. Someone whispers, "Oh my God." The black CEO finally turns his head slowly. His gaze meets hers, cold, calm, measured, and that look alone makes her falter. But pride, again, wins over reason. And then it happens. A sharp, echoing crack. The flight attendant's hand connects with his cheek. The sound is small but deafening. It slices through the cabin like a bolt of lightning. The entire plane freezes utterly silent. Even the engines seem to fall quiet for a second. The captain's eyes widen. The passengers stare, mouths open. A woman in the back drops her phone. He doesn't react, not immediately. He just sits there, head slightly turned from the impact, the faint red mark blooming on his cheek. Then he straightens his collar, exhales once, slow and steady. His eyes, steady as stone, meet hers again. "Are you done?" he says softly. His tone isn't angry. It's quiet, controlled. But it's the kind of quiet that makes your stomach twist. The kind that says something irreversible just happened. The flight attendant steps back, realizing what she's done. The color drains from her face. "I didn't mean one." The captain storms forward. "Lisa, what the hell were you thinking?" But she can't speak. She's shaking now, eyes darting around the cabin, searching for a way to undo the moment. The black CEO stands, slowly, gracefully. The kind of movement that doesn't need speed to command attention. The cabin watches in absolute silence as he adjusts his jacket, picks up his phone, and says in a tone that could freeze glass, "This flight ends now." The captain blinks. I faced her. He looks straight ahead. "Land the plane." The captain hesitates. "We're mid-route to Gin." "Land it," the CEO repeats, eyes steady, immediately. And for the first time, the captain doesn't question him. He nods and heads for the cockpit. The flight attendant stumbles back, still trembling. "You can't just..." But he turns to her, voice calm, deadly calm. "I can and I will." He looks around the cabin. Passengers avoid eye contact. One whispers, "He owns the plane?" Another murmurs, "Who is this guy?" He walks past her slowly, the air around him still and commanding. "You just assaulted your employer," he says, without looking back. Her breath catches. What did you say?" He stops at the aisle's end, turns. "I said," he repeats, "you just hit the man who owns this jet." And before she can respond, the camera lingers on her face, pale, horrified, her lips trembling as realization hits. This wasn't a passenger. This was the boss. The engines roar louder as the plane begins to descend. The power has shifted completely. And for the first time since the flight began, she's the one who can't breathe. The cabin is still. You could hear a pin drop except for the low mechanical hum that sounds almost like a heartbeat. Everyone's frozen in disbelief. The flight attendant's hand still trembles in midair as if even her body can't accept what it just did. Her face is pale now, her authority gone, replaced by something she's never felt before, fear. The black CEO stands in the aisle, tall and composed, his calm radiating through the chaos like a storm in reverse. He doesn't yell. He doesn't need to. Power, real power, doesn't have to scream. It just exists. And everyone feels it. He reaches into his jacket, takes out his phone, and swipes the screen once. The light from the display reflects against the window, bouncing off his face as he lifts it to his ear. "Connect me to tower control," he says, voice low but steady. The captain, halfway through the cockpit door, stops. He looks back, uncertain, trying to process what he just heard. "Sir, tower control?" The CEO doesn't look at him. "You'll need clearance to land," he says simply. "You'll have it in 2 minutes." Go widey. The flight attendant, standing by the galley, stammers. "You can't just order that. You're not." But he raises a single hand, silencing her instantly. On the other end of the phone, a voice answers, muffled but urgent. "Mr. Reed, this is Tower. We received your alert code. Do you want the line secured?" "Yes," he replies. "Secure it now." The passengers exchange bewildered glances. One whispers, "Wait, he has an alert code?" Another murmurs, "Who is this guy?" The CEO's tone sharpens just slightly. "I want confirmation on the registration of aircraft November Delta 3-1. There's a pause. Then the response crackles through the cabin, clear enough for everyone nearby to hear. Confirmed registration, Maxwell Holdings Incorporated. Owner, Marcus Reed. The name lands like thunder. Every passenger's head turns. The captain's jaw tightens. The flight attendant's lips part, a whisper escaping. No, no, that's not possible. Marcus finally lowers his phone. He looks around the cabin, eyes cold and calm, his presence filling every inch of space. This jet, he says, belongs to me. Silence. Pure, complete silence. The flight attendant steps back, shaking her head, her voice tiny now. You're lying. This can't be. He cuts her off, not with anger, but with precision. You assaulted your employer in front of witnesses on a recorded flight. Think about that before you speak again. She stumbles, gripping the wall to steady herself. The weight of her mistake crashes down like gravity itself. The captain clears his throat, voice unsteady. Mr. Reed orders? Marcus looks toward the cockpit, then at the passengers. We're landing this plane. Now, the captain nods, no hesitation this time. Yes, sir. Why do? The engines shift pitch as the aircraft begins to descend. The sudden tilt makes coffee cups slide and seatbelts tighten. But it's not turbulence that's shaking, the cabin, it's realization. The woman who thought she had all the control just lost everything in 10 minutes. Marcus walks past her as he returns to his seat, calm as ever. The light catches the faint mark still on his cheek, but his expression never changes. He sits down, crosses one leg over the other, and looks out the window at the ocean of clouds. Then, almost to himself, he murmurs, I told you you had no idea who you were talking to. The flight attendant drops into a jump seat, face buried in her hands, silent tears mixing with shock. The captain's voice comes through the intercom, professional but trembling. Ladies and gentlemen, due to an operational request, we'll be making an unscheduled landing shortly. No one speaks. No one moves. The jet glides lower through golden sunlight, slicing through the clouds like a blade. Inside, the power has shifted completely, and everyone can feel it. Because sometimes, it only takes one phone call to remind the world who's really in charge. And this time, it's not the one wearing the uniform. The private jet begins its descent, slicing through thick layers of cloud like a blade through silk. The cabin lights dim automatically, casting soft amber tones across faces, still pale with shock. No one speaks. No one even breathes too loudly. It's the kind of silence that follows a storm, except this storm hasn't passed. It's just changing altitude. The black CEO, Marcus Reed, sits perfectly still in seat 1A, the same seat he was told to leave not 15 minutes ago. His phone rests on his knee, screen dark now, the call long ended, but its echo still hangs in the air. The faint red mark on his cheek is almost gone, but the memory of the slap burns brighter than ever. The flight attendant, Lisa, hasn't moved much either. Her shoulders are hunched, her eyes red, her once pristine uniform slightly wrinkled. Every few seconds, she opens her mouth as if to speak, but nothing comes out. Guilt, panic, and disbelief twist inside her like turbulence no pilot can stabilize. Cabin crew, prepare for landing. The captain's voice calls through the intercom, calm but strained. Lisa stands automatically, muscle memory taking over. Her hand reaches for the intercom switch, but halfway there she freezes. The weight of the moment crashes back down. She lowers her hand slowly and turns toward Marcus. He's looking out the window, calm as ever, watching the light shift from blue to gold as they descend. Finally, he speaks, not to her, but to the air itself. You know, the higher you fly, the smaller people look beneath you. He pauses, turns his gaze toward her, but it's funny how fast that changes when the plane starts to drop. Lisa swallows hard. Mr. Reed, I didn't know. I swear I didn't. He cuts her off, voice flat. You didn't care to know. Her lip trembles. Please, I made a mistake. I explained to corporate. He raises a hand, silencing her. Corporate works for me. The words hit her like another slap. She stumbles slightly, gripping the edge of a seat to steady herself. The passengers nearby exchange glances, half pity, half awe. The engines roar louder as the jet drops below the clouds, revealing the coastline beneath them. The world outside looks calm and golden, but inside, the tension feels thick enough to choke on. Marcus adjusts his cufflink, his voice calm. You had your chance to treat people with respect. You chose pride instead. Lisa's breathing quickens. Please, sir, I didn't mean to offend her. He looks up sharply. You didn't offend me. A long pause. You exposed yourself. The intercom crackles again. Touchdown in 2 minutes, the captain says. Marcus leans back, eyes half closed. Make it 1, he murmurs. The plane tilts forward slightly, the descent steepening. Passengers grip their seats, startled. The engines scream louder, wind pressing hard against the fuselage. It feels less like landing and more like judgment closing in. Lisa steadies herself, her mind spiraling. She glances around, desperate for anyone to back her up, but every face avoids hers. Even the co-pilot, now seated near the cockpit door, won't meet her eyes. For the first time in her career, she's invisible. The landing gear deploys with a heavy thud. The tires kiss the runway with a jarring screech. The aircraft slows rapidly, the force pushing everyone slightly forward. Outside the window, the world steadies. But inside, nothing feels stable anymore. As they taxi toward the private hangar, Marcus finally stands. The seatbelt sign is still on, but he ignores it. His voice is low, deliberate, and absolute. Everyone here will remain seated until I say otherwise. No one argues. Even the captain glances back once, then nods silently. Lisa sinks into a jump seat near the galley, tears threatening to spill but trapped behind pride. Marcus turns toward her one last time before the jet stops. When we touch ground, he says quietly, your career does too. The plane rolls to a stop. The engines fade into silence. Outside, sunlight floods the tarmac, but inside, the cabin feels darker than ever. Marcus walks toward the door, each step echoing like a countdown. This isn't just a landing, it's an ending. The plane's wheels screech to a stop on the private runway, the cabin shuddering slightly before everything goes still. Then silence. No one moves. The passengers sit frozen, as if afraid that even breathing too loudly might make them part of what just happened. Marcus Reed, the black CEO, remains standing. The cabin light casts a golden glow on him, highlighting his calm but unyielding presence. He doesn't need to shout. His quietness is the authority now. Every person on board knows it. Outside the window, sunlight glints off the polished wings as the jet rolls to a stop near a line of waiting ground vehicles. Airport staff begin to approach, some in uniform, others in suits. These aren't regular handlers. They move with the precision of people who know who's inside. The flight attendant, Lisa, sits on the jump seat near the galley, her posture collapsed. Her makeup is smudged, her breathing uneven. The confident tone she had in the air is gone, replaced by panic and disbelief. She watches Marcus as he collects his phone and jacket. He moves slowly, methodically, like a man who owns every second of this silence. The captain steps out from the cockpit, his voice shaky. Mr. Reed, the plane's secure. Ground security is requesting instructions. Marcus turns slightly, his voice calm. No one leaves until I step off this jet. Then they can do what they need to do. Right, old Salder? The captain nods, swallowing hard. Yes, sir. Lisa stumbles to her feet, her hands trembling. Please, Mr. Reed, I didn't know who you were. If I had, I would have never... He looks at her for the first time since the slap. His gaze is unreadable, neither angry nor forgiving, just final. That's exactly the problem, he says softly. Respect shouldn't depend on recognition. Her mouth opens, but no words come out. The truth in that line hits harder than any punishment. He adjusts his cufflink, his voice lowering. You thought you were protecting your space, your status, your rules, but the moment you crossed the line, you didn't just lose your job, you lost your dignity. Tears well in her eyes. Please, I'll apologize publicly. I'll tell everyone it was a misunderstanding. Marcus shakes his head slowly. No, you'll tell the truth. That's how you start learning from it. Outside, The sound of doors opening echoes faintly through the fuselage. Two black SUVs have pulled up beside the jet. Men in tailored suits wait by the stairs, holding clipboards and earpieces. One of them looks up and signals toward Marcus through the window. Lisa stares, realizing this isn't a corporate HR visit. This is something far bigger. The man she humiliated isn't just another executive. He's a power that people follow. Marcus walks toward the exit. Each step feels heavy, deliberate, echoing through the narrow cabin. He stops beside her for one brief second. "When we're on the ground," he says quietly, "truth has a way of catching up to us. You can't outfly consequences." He doesn't wait for her reply. He turns, opens the cabin door himself, and sunlight floods in a sharp, blinding light that feels almost like judgment. The moment his foot touches the stairway, everything changes. The airport staff straighten, the ground crew snap to attention, cameras flash from somewhere near the terminal. Inside, Lisa collapses into a seat, covering her face with her hands. Her body shakes silently, not from the turbulence of flight, but from the crash of reality. Marcus steps onto the runway, greeting his assistant, who's waiting by the car. "Handle it," he says simply, handing over his phone. "Every detail, every recording, make sure the right people see it." The assistant nods. "Already on it, sir." He takes one last look back at the jet, the symbol of arrogance turned into a stage of truth. Then he walks away, the sunlight at his back, his expression unreadable. Inside the cabin, the hum of the engines fades completely, replaced by a single, haunting silence. Lisa stares at her reflection in the window, her eyes red and hollow. The uniform that once gave her pride now feels like a costume she no longer deserves to wear. Because in 10 minutes, she didn't just lose her job. She lost her place in the sky. The world outside the private hangar is bright, but inside, the atmosphere is dim-weighted, suffocating, like the moment before a verdict is read. The once luxurious cabin of the jet now feels like a courtroom. Every seat, every shadow, every silence has turned into judgment. Marcus Reed, the black CEO, stands by the open hatch, his back to the light, streaming in from the runway. His presence dominates the space, calm, centered, immovable. Two men in black suits step aboard, holding folders and ID badges. Their movements are smooth, professional. These are not airport staff. They're corporate investigators summoned directly from Maxwell Holdings, his company. "Mr. Reed," one of them says, voice low. "We've reviewed the footage, multiple angles. Passenger recordings match the cabin audio. It's all here." Marcus nods once, "Secure it." They exchange glances. "Yes, sir? Should we proceed with a formal report to the board?" He turns slightly, his tone even. "Not yet. I want to see how she explains herself first." At the back of the cabin, Lisa, the flight attendant, sits trembling. Her hands twist the edge of a napkin she's been gripping since they landed. The color has drained from her face. She can feel every second of silence pressing down on her like gravity. "Ms. Carter," one of the investigators says gently, "do you understand the severity of what happened here?" Her voice cracks. "I do, but please, it was a misunderstanding. I thought he was a passenger who didn't belong in first class," Marcus interrupts quietly. His tone isn't raised, but the air seems to shrink around his words. She nods helplessly, tears forming. "I didn't know he was..." Marcus cuts her off again. That's what everyone says when they realize they've shown who they really are. The words land heavy. The investigators stay silent, taking notes. Outside, the low hum of a nearby engine vibrates through the fuselage, a faint reminder that the world is still moving, even as hers stops. Lisa swallows hard. "Please, Mr. Reed, I was doing my job. There are protocols, seating rules. I thought..." "Protocol," Marcus says, his voice calm but sharp. "Protocol doesn't include laying your hand on a passenger. It doesn't include humiliating someone in front of witnesses. And it definitely doesn't include racial bias under the company I built." Her eyes widen. The realization hits her like cold water. This isn't just about a slap anymore, it's about everything underneath it. The investigator steps forward, lowering his tablet. Sir, HR is already preparing termination documents for the entire in-flight crew, pending your approval. Wait, crast. Marcus doesn't look surprised. They'll get what they deserve, he says simply. The captain included. Silence is complicity. The captain, standing near the cockpit, stiffens but doesn't speak. His gaze drops to the floor. Lisa starts to sob. Please, I can't lose this job. I have a daughter. This will destroy me. Marcus studies her for a long moment. There's no satisfaction in his expression, no cruelty, just the weight of truth. You destroyed yourself the moment you chose pride over respect, he says quietly. The investigators exchange a nod. One turns to Marcus. Do you want us to issue the internal notice immediately? He exhales slowly, looking out the window at the runway glowing in afternoon light. Not yet. I want every employee in this company to see this first, then send it. The man nods, understood. Lisa buries her face in her hands. The faint clicking of a pen, the scribbling of signatures, the rustle of paper, it all sounds like nails being driven into a coffin. Marcus turns, pausing at the doorway before stepping out into the sunlight again. The investigators follow. He stops halfway down the stairs, glancing back at the jet that now looks more like a prison than a luxury aircraft. Record this as a lesson, he says to his assistant waiting below. Power doesn't corrupt it, reveals. I moaf. As he walks away, the camera lingers on Lisa's face through the cabin window, shattered, defeated, her reflection fractured by the glass. The engines are off, the flight is over, but her fall has only just begun. It starts with a single video. Shaky footage captured by a passenger's phone, 10 seconds of chaos inside a private jet. The clip opens with the sound of a slap, followed by gasps, and then the calm, steady voice of Marcus Reed, the black CEO, saying, land the plane, that's all it takes. 10 seconds, 10 million views in an hour. By morning, it's everywhere. Headlines explode across social media feeds. Flight attendant assaults black CEO on his own jet. Power reversal at 30,000 feet. The slap that grounded a career. The video spreads like wildfire, edited, slowed down, analyzed frame by frame. People freeze the exact moment her hand meets his face, zooming in on every flicker of expression. The internet has found its villain, and her name is Lisa Carter. Meanwhile, inside a glass-walled skyscraper downtown, Marcus Reed stands at the head of a long conference table. Behind him, a panoramic view of the city stretches into the distance. His team fills the room, PR strategists, legal advisors, executives, all waiting for his command. The air is tense but reverent. A screen on the wall replays the clip for the 1,000th time. The slap, the gasp, his unshaken composure. The moment has already become legend. A PR executive clears her throat. Mr. Reed, public sentiment is overwhelmingly in your favor. The footage confirms everything. Do you want us to make a statement? Marcus' reflection stares back from the window. Calm, controlled, unreadable. No, he says, the video speaks for itself. Another advisor interjects. The airline has issued an apology and placed Lisa Carter on indefinite suspension. Their legal department is asking if you intend to press charges. Marcus's gaze doesn't waver. No charges, he says softly. Let them clean up their own mess. I'm not in the business of revenge. The room falls silent. He turns from the window, facing them all. But I am in the business of accountability. Across the city, news anchors dissect every angle of the story. Talk shows replay the footage on loop. One commentator says, it's not just about a slap, it's about how quickly power shifts when respect isn't mutual. Another adds, Marcus Reed handled it like a leader. Calm, dignified, no theatrics, just absolute control. The narrative is no longer about humiliation, it's about transformation. The man who was publicly disrespected has become a symbol of restraint, discipline, and power reclaimed. In contrast, Lisa's world is collapsing. Paparazzi swarm outside her small suburban home. Reporters crowd the sidewalk, cameras flashing as she opens the door, just a crack. Her voice trembles as she pleads, "Please, leave me alone!" But the internet doesn't forgive. Screenshots of her old posts surface, tweets she made years ago resurface with ugly context. Her name trends for all the wrong reasons. Inside her house, she sits on the floor, surrounded by half-packed boxes and a silence that feels endless. Her phone buzzes with endless notifications, none of them good. She scrolls past thousands of comments. Karma. Good for him. This is what happens when you underestimate people. Meanwhile, in a quiet moment away from the boardroom, Marcus sits in his office looking at the same viral clip. He watches himself still and silent after the slap. For a moment, his face softens less the CEO, more the man who's lived this pattern too many times before. His assistant enters quietly. "Sir, your statement draft is ready." He shakes his head. No statement. "Not yet." "Then what should we do?" He looks up, eyes steady. "We do nothing. Let the world see what happens when truth doesn't need a filter." The assistant nods. Marcus glances back at the screen one last time, then presses it off. The room falls into silence again, peaceful, heavy, final. Outside, the city glows with neon and noise. But up here, above it all, one man sits in quiet control, watching a storm he didn't start burn itself out. Because sometimes, the most powerful response is no response at all. 3 days have passed. The world hasn't stopped talking. The slap, the look, the command, land the plane. It's been replayed on every screen, every headline, every feed. But now, something new trends to the top. Lisa Carter breaks her silence. A small press room has been set up inside the airline's headquarters. Fluorescent lights hum overhead, cameras click and flash like restless insects. The air is heavy with anticipation. Everyone wants to see what she'll say. Lisa, the flight attendant, steps onto the podium. Her once perfect posture is gone. Her shoulders slope forward. Her hands shake as she adjusts the microphone. She looks older, smaller, like the weight of the internet has pressed her into someone else entirely. She clears her throat. "I want to start by saying I was wrong." Her voice cracks. "What I did was unprofessional, disrespectful, and unacceptable. I mean, we're sold?" A murmur ripples through the room. Reporters scribble notes, their cameras locked on her trembling face. "I let my assumptions, my pride, and my judgment get in the way of my duty," she continues. "I spoke to a man, to Mr. Marcus Reed, in a way no one deserves to be spoken to." The name lands softly but powerfully. She pauses, collecting herself. "I didn't know who he was. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that I didn't care who he was." Weist. For the first time, her eyes glisten with genuine remorse. In those moments, I represented everything wrong with the system I was supposed to uphold. And for that, I am truly, deeply sorry. Silence. Even the clicking of cameras stops for a heartbeat. One reporter raises a hand. "Miss Carter, have you spoken to Mr. Reed since the incident?" Lisa shakes her head. "No, I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope my apology reaches him." The press conference ends abruptly. As she walks off the stage, flashes explode like lightning, each one a reminder that no matter how sincere her words, the damage is already carved into digital stone. Meanwhile, in the upper floors of a sleek downtown skyscraper, Marcus Reed watches the live broadcast from his office. The city skyline glows behind him, cold and distant. His assistant stands nearby. "Do you want me to cut the feed, sir?" He shakes his head slowly. "No, let it play." On screen, Lisa's voice wavers as she finishes. "I was wrong about what respect looks like. It's not something you demand, it's something you give." The words hang in the air, even after the video fades to black. Marcus leans back in his chair, his eyes unreadable. "She's learning," he says softly. His assistant hesitates. "Will you respond publicly?" Marcus stands, walking toward the window. No need. She already said everything that needed to be said. "Or," He looks out over the city, hands in his pockets, reflecting not on vengeance, but on perspective. She thought this was about hierarchy, he murmurs, almost to himself, but it's about humanity. His assistant frowns slightly. You're letting her off easy. Marcus turns, that faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. No, I'm letting her live with it. That's harder. Righto. The camera lingers on his reflection against the glass, the same man who was humiliated in front of strangers, now standing as a global symbol of composure. Outside, storm clouds gather over the skyline, the faint rumble of thunder echoing through the distance, its poetic nature mirroring the tension still hanging in the air. And as Marcus walks away from the window, he says one final line before the screen fades to black. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's proof you've already won. Our new cut to silence. Just the sound of rain beginning to fall, slow and steady like the world washing itself clean. The city wakes under gray clouds, the kind that carry both calm and warning. The video of Lisa Carter's apology is still trending, but now the conversation has shifted. People aren't just talking about the slap anymore. They're talking about Marcus Reed's silence. Why hasn't he responded? Why hasn't he given an interview, a statement, anything? The world wants a reaction. But Marcus knows real power isn't in reacting. It's in deciding when to act. He stands at the floor-to-ceiling window of his office, watching the rain trail down the glass. His reflection is steady, his eyes distant. On the desk behind him, news reports play quietly on a muted screen. Clips of Lisa's tearful face, hashtags calling her the fallen attendant, and others calling Marcus the man who stayed calm. His assistant, Jordan, steps in, holding a folder. Sir, the airline reached out again. They're asking if you'll meet with their board. They want to issue a joint statement of reconciliation. Marcus doesn't turn. Reconciliation. He repeats the word heavy in his mouth. That's not what this is. Jordan sets the folder down. They're scared. Stocks down 12% in 48 hours. Investors are pulling out. Marcus finally turns from the window, his voice cool, precise. And they should be. This wasn't a PR disaster. This was a mirror. Jordan hesitates. What do you want to do? Marcus walks to his desk, tapping his fingers once against the glass surface. What I always do, he says. Make it mean something. He opens his laptop. The screen glows, reflecting in his eyes. A draft document sits open. A public letter, written but unsent. Its title reads, Respect in the Sky. He scrolls through it silently. Every word is calm, measured, powerful. Not an accusation, not a defense, but a lesson. He reads a line under his breath. This isn't about race, class, or wealth. It's about humanity, and how quickly we forget it when we think power gives us permission to look down on others. He pauses, staring at that line. Then he closes the laptop. Not yet, he says. Jordan looks up. You're not posting it? Marcus shakes his head. Not until the timing's right. Words only change things when people are ready to listen. A knock at the door interrupts them. A woman in a dark suit enters Clara, the head of corporate affairs. Marcus, the media's waiting. If you don't speak soon, they'll fill the silence for you. He gives her a faint smile. Let them. Silence isn't weakness, it's space. And sometimes, space lets the truth breathe. Clara studies him for a moment, then nods slowly. So what's next? Marcus walks back to the window. The rain has slowed, leaving streaks of light across the skyline. He watches a plane climb through the clouds, its trail cutting through the gray like a line of resolve. What's next, he says, isn't about me. It's about how we treat people when no one's watching. Clara frowns, realizing he's not just talking about the incident, he's talking about culture, leadership, change. He turns back to them both, his decision made. Schedule a press conference, he says, but it's not about the slap. It's about respect for everyone at every level. One. Jordan blinks. You're going public? Marcus nods. Not to defend, to redefine. He straightens his tie, his voice calm but absolute. If this story is going to live forever, I am going to decide how it lives. As he walks toward the door, the music swells. The camera lingers on his desk, where the unsent letter still glows faintly on the screen. A single sentence highlighted in gold. Dignity doesn't come from where you sit. It comes from how you stand. White. The sound fades to the hum of the city, low, steady, unstoppable, as Marcus steps into the elevator, heading toward the press room below. Because this time, his silence won't speak for him. He's about to speak for everyone. The press room is packed. Cameras line the back wall, their red recording lights blinking like tiny heartbeats. The low hum of whispers fills the air. Journalists, executives, influencers, all waiting for one man to speak. It's been 4 days since the slap that shook the internet. 4 days since Marcus Reed, the black CEO, said nothing while the world said everything. And now, as the doors open, that silence is about to end. Marcus steps onto the stage with measured calm. No entourage, no theatrics, just presence. The lights strike him from above, sharp and white, catching the faint silver in his cufflinks. He stands behind the podium, lays down a single page, and looks out at the sea of faces. For a few seconds, he doesn't say a word. The crowd shifts uneasily. Then, finally, "Good evening." His voice is steady, deep, unhurried. You've all seen the video, you've seen what happened 30,000 feet above the ground, and you've seen how fast a moment can turn into a movement. The room stills. You can feel the air tighten, as though every breath is waiting for the next line. "I didn't come here to relive what happened," he continues. "I came here to talk about what it revealed." He pauses, letting the words hang. We live in a world that teaches us to look at power before we look at people, to measure worth by position, not by principle. But when you strip away the titles, the uniforms, the status, what's left is character. And that's the one thing money can't buy or fake. The audience leans in, phones lift to record. "I was disrespected." "Yes," he says, his tone sharper now. But what mattered wasn't the insult. It was the reaction. How we choose to respond when the world tests us. That's what defines leadership. He glances at the crowd, his gaze steady. "I didn't fire anyone out of anger. I grounded that plane because chaos doesn't lead. Order does. Discipline does. Accountability does." A flicker of light flashes as a photographer captures the moment. His calm, his conviction, the poise of a man who doesn't just survive controversy, but redefines it. Lisa Carter made a mistake, a serious one. But she also did something rare. She admitted it. She took responsibility. And for that, I respect her far more now than I did before. Whispers spread through the crowd. Surprise, disbelief, curiosity. "We can't fix a broken system by trading shame for silence," he continues. "We fix it by owning the truth and growing from it. This isn't about revenge. It's about rebuilding what respect means. In business, in service, in humanity." "Hey, way. His voice deepens, almost like a sermon now, low, powerful, deliberate. "When I was a kid, my mother told me something I never forgot. How you treat the people who can't give you anything. That's who you really are. That's the test we all fail sometimes. But we can learn. We must." He steps back from the microphone slightly. The lights warm around him. The silence is profound, reverent. "So here's my decision." He says at last, "Instead of pressing charges, I'm launching an initiative, the Respect Program. Training, education, real dialogue, not just for airlines, but for every industry where bias hides behind protocol. This isn't just about what happened to me. It's about making sure it doesn't keep happening to anyone else." Gasps ripple across the audience. The cameras flash again, this time capturing not scandal, but legacy. Marcus exhales softly. "The sky doesn't belong to anyone," he says, "but dignity does. And it's time we remember that every single person, no matter their seat, their skin, or their salary, deserves to be seen." He steps away from the podium. The crowd rises, not in chaos, but in respect. The applause builds like a wave, slow, heavy, unstoppable. Marcus nods once, humbly, then walks off stage as the lights dim. In that moment, The man who was slapped in humiliation walks into history, not as a victim, but as a voice. Because real power doesn't shout. It stands still and the world listens. Weeks have passed since Marcus Reed's speech shook the media world. The headlines that once screamed scandal now read movement. What began as an act of disrespect aboard a jet has transformed into a worldwide conversation about dignity, leadership, and power. The Respect program that Marcus announced is no longer just an idea. It's a full-scale initiative. Training modules, corporate partnerships, seminars on bias and empathy, all stamped with one simple phrase: respect takes flight. Across the globe, companies begin to adopt it. News anchors discuss it nightly. University professors quote Marcus in ethics classes. Even rival CEOs, men who once dismissed him as too young, too bold, too outspoken, now reference his composure as a new gold standard for leadership. The viral moment has evolved into something deeper, something lasting. But amid all the noise, Marcus stays quiet. No interviews, no endorsements, just work. That's how he's always led, not by reacting to the spotlight, but by shaping what it shines on. It's late evening in his office. The skyline outside glows orange and gold as the sun sets behind glass towers. He stands alone by the window, watching the world move beneath him. For the first time in weeks, he allows himself to breathe, really breathe. His assistant, Jordan, enters quietly. "Sir," he says, holding a tablet. "The program's first pilot session just ended. The feedback's incredible. People are calling it transformative." Marcus smiles faintly, the kind of smile that's more relief than pride. "Good," he says softly. "That means we're doing something real." Jordan hesitates. And there's something else. He hands over the tablet. On the screen is a headline: "Former flight attendant Lisa Carter joins Respect program as speaker." "Clar?" Marcus raises an eyebrow, then chuckles quietly. Not mockery, but something closer to understanding. "She joined?" "Yes," Jordan says. "She reached out herself. She said she wants to help others learn from what she did." Marcus studies the screen for a long moment, his reflection faint against the glass. "That," he says finally, "is how you turn a mistake into meaning." And he sets the tablet down, looking out at the city again. The traffic below glows like rivers of light, each one moving toward its own destination. Chaotic, unstoppable, alive. A knock at the door interrupts the silence. Clara, head of corporate affairs, steps in. "Marcus, you've got a message from the FAA," she says. "They're naming you to their new ethics advisory board." He nods slightly. "Tell them I'll accept, but only if it's not just for show." She smiles. "They said that's exactly why they want you." "One, so are." As she leaves, the office falls quiet again. The only sound is the faint hum of the city and the echo of his own thoughts. He remembers the slap, the silence, the eyes that doubted him, and then the applause that came not because he fought back, but because he refused to lose himself. He walks toward his desk, where the framed quote from his mother still sits. "How you treat the people who can't give you anything, that's who you really are." Except in two, he traces the edge of the frame with his thumb and whispers, almost to himself, "You were right, Mom. Always were." Outside, the last streaks of daylight fade into dusk. Somewhere, a plane passes overhead, its lights blinking against the dark sky, calm, unbothered, endless. Marcus watches it disappear into the horizon and smiles, his voice barely above a whisper. "R? Respect really does take flight." The screen fades to black. A slow piano melody plays under his closing words, echoing like a heartbeat. "Power can demand attention, but respect earns it." Fade out. The logo for the Respect program appears, followed by a single sentence in white letters. "Inspired by true events, dedicated to every person who chose grace over anger." The music swells, soft and final, before silence takes over. And just like that, the story that began in turbulence ends in transformation.